They have subject, they have jurisdiction over the person, not necessarily the subject. So you're going to deal with subject matter jurisdiction, and you're going to deal with personality jurisdiction. Now, the deal is, while what they're saying is absolutely correct, and they have some solid information, whereas they will get a win, it will be because it's dangerous for this information to be out with the masses because it ends bureaucratic slavery, which the average person doesn't know exists. To that degree, they'll give them some wins. On the ultimate, they will find a position to dismiss their issue under some kind of error. Because the real deal is, it's sort of like they got them against the wall because they got information, solid information, but they're not in their proper person. And the de jure law or the constitutional principle don't really protect them. Now, so what they're doing, the test is not on them right now. The test is on law. And basically, when you deal with a case before any court, the law is always on trial. Problem is with Asiatics, you deal with European names, they're on trial. And this is the fine area that we have to clean up, starting with that driver's license, with their ability to move, all the transactions they do, cashing checks, moving these instruments, purportedly instruments of money. They're using the license as an identification, when actually that's a travel pass. It's like a passport, you know, an apartheid passport. You know, so look at them all together. Don't look at any of that as separate. But understand, ultimately, before they give up the ship, it's sort of like they got them because they got some good information.
Every time they go up to the supreme level, it gets dismissed, and they got up there.
Well, you already know why.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, when they come and sometimes they give classes in our classes, and they teach you how to fill out the form so you can actually get the money back.
Well, you can. Was it
with the 1048?
What's that form?
The 1048 form.
Yeah.
And basically he bought the book and he shows you. They're telling you how to fill it out correctly.
Yes.
But it's worded in a way that you won't understand it in the legalese.
Yeah.
And in their own language, because they give their own definitions. The IRS have their own definitions for their own words.
Yes.
And he shows you how to fill it out properly and actually get your money back.
Yes.
When it's time for
you
you
don't
to
get your money back, you get your energies back.
Well, your energies,
Huh? You get your energies back. Brother Mike, I yield them back to the brother here. What was your question, brother?
When or is it possible to reissue one of the Al-Moroccan stars? I think it's the Will the Real Moors Please Stand Up? That had a lot of information in there about the IRS. Was that the one? I know one of the Al-Moroccan stars.
Oh, confused about taxes.
Yeah.
Is the publisher is going to take that article by itself and book it.
Okay.
And that's edited for the paper.
Right.
But what I'm going to do is go back into my notes, because I got Macintosh and I got IBM and Dell. So I have to go back on Macintosh on old notes, and I'm going to expand on that, and that's going to be booked. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we were going to do was book that even for today. Right. It's just that time, me working, she working, my sister had a problem with the bathroom, and we were banging up to the hours and still didn't get it. But that's not something that we forgot. We're going to deal with that, and we're also going to deal with some protocols, because that's extract from protocols of liberties. And we're going to deal with some fundamental bill of particulars and writs in the nature of discovery, etc., and start giving some suggestive dispensations of documents, etc. But again, what I wanted to mention to the sister again, and she pretty much said what I was saying, because see, the deal is, as soon as, see, because there is only one court, the law, and that's sustained in the Supreme Court. And the inferior courts are only truthfully legitimate if they're delegated authority by the Supreme Court. When you start talking Supreme Court, when you see that you can't get remedy in what you call your inferior courts, and logically you're going to work it up to the Supreme Court, if you're not in your proper person, they're going to bump it anyway. It's gone. They're going to send you right back to the state's jurisdiction, and they're going to do what they always do, keep bouncing you around. But they're not telling you, but the plaintiff is in error. In other words, you're like Dred Scott. Right. Dred Scott arguing free rights, etc., rights in the territory, and the issue was status. So when you talk about the Missouri Compromise, etc., whether someone held to forced servitude is transferred to another state with the owners, etc., and they're arguing that you're in another state and therefore you're free, and the court declared that it was a status. And so the scholars always argue about the Dred Scott case, the content. They talk about racism, unfair, and all stuff, and the issue was that he was in error. His name is not Dred Scott. Right. You can't come before a free national court using an alien European name and don't talking about you equal to him. You know, so you going to start talking about rights and freedoms, you got to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. You can't be running around talking about you Caesarian when you know you're Asiatic African birth. You can talk about that you Smith, Jones, and Johnson. Now you can do that in the little club games, and they got nigger codes for us. That's what they've been dealing with, color of law and nigger codes, which is what we keep complaining about. But then, when it comes to true law, we refuse to honor our mothers and our fathers. And then our days are cut short on the civilized earth, and then we complain, call it racism. No, it's not racism. There's only one race on the planet. It's the human race divided into nationalities. You have no nationality, law does not apply to you. Programs. And so when you start building things up and going to the Supreme Court, dealing with the supreme law of the land, guess who it don't apply to? Outlaws. Negroes, blacks, and colors are outlaws. It's not personal. We're talking law. Because when it comes to push and shove, William Smith, that European, he calling himself white with you. But then we get to that court, he's saying he's German or French or Englishman, etc. He's going to declare his nationality, and the law applies to him. And you be saying, well, that white man did something to this black man. Guess what? Codes all day long. And so we need to be cognizant of this so that we don't take things emotionally and we get really on a stick and understand that we're destroyed not for lack of prayer, not for lack of belief, for a lack of knowledge. And so the people don't know their mothers and fathers, so they don't honor their mothers and fathers. But what they don't know, that's a legal status that goes with that. It's not left to your opinion. It's not left to emotionalism. It's really a legal status. Negro and black is a legal status. It's not just a misnomer put in history. That distinguishes what you would call natural sovereign people that actually have sovereign from a nation, because anyone who's not of a nation is not considered when nations come together to consider law, and laws come from nations. And if you're not part of a nation, or you don't recognize your mother, that's where your nativity comes from. So if you walk around with no belly button, do you understand what I'm saying? Then the state claims you with a certificate, and you got his name too. You're in a position of no judicial standi, which is logical. It's fair. It's not unfair. What is unfair is that we didn't know better. What's unethical is that nobody told us. What's unethical is somebody told you was this complexion, when it's actually your status. And so once you understand it's your status, you change your attitude and get knowledge, and change your political status and do it for the record. That's really what nationalization is. The process of nationalization. That's what that actually is. It's not just, well, you nationalized because you knew you was Moorish, you know, it was a good idea, historical. No, it's actually a political act for the record. And so if you don't know what that represents in the societies, for the record, logically, you're not going to claim the rights that are secured with it. You just think of some historical fact that you came upon and you got it. Oh man, I know this is right. I ain't never black and colored, I'm Moor. But guess what? If you don't know how to use it, you may as well take off that turban and fez, give back that card and button, and return yourself back to that nigger state, because it's not going to do you any good. It's like somebody giving you gold and you don't know what you have. Do you understand what I'm saying? So back to what we were talking about before. Status, jurisdiction, and venue, then adjudication. So what's happening, they're adjudicating matters on personality, right? Personal property, and pecuniary compensations is personal property. You understand? Then as a natural person having a right to own property, of course Negroes, blacks, and colors own property. Do you understand? They themselves are wards of the state. So anything that comes under an issuance of a ward of the state automatically goes to the state, whether it's inheritance or anything else. Land, it doesn't matter. Even the vehicles they ride around in. If it's registered to the state, it belongs to the state first. You see what I'm saying? You issue something from your womb and you give a certificate from the state, instead of putting it in your Quran or your Bible, it belongs to them first. It don't belong to you. They can kick your door down 11,000 o'clock in the morning and take their babies out. And you be arguing about racism and everything, and the real deal is you made that contract, sold, made a pact with them, and sold your baby to them, signed it over. But they didn't tell you that was a contract. That's the problem. So what we need to do is stop dealing with emotions and get to understand civilization principles. These are principles of civilization. And we must stop violating those laws and come back into the constitutional fold of government.